we're live. I've decided to start the stream like a minute earlier instead of smack on at 11 every single time. Because every now and then there's like this small hiccup here and there, this small delay that I just can't foresee, and starting at 11:01 is way worse than 11/10:59, you know? So yeah, let's do it. We are. Good morning. Yet again, we're brewing with these Ethiopian beans over here. It's a sampler pack by Onibus, and we're on our last brew, sadly enough. Yesterday's cup was pretty good, but today we're gonna try to do something a bit different and do the increased brewing ratio to 1:18 that we said yesterday. So, bringing you over here, today's recipe will be a 1:18 brewing ratio, 15 grams of coffee, 270 grams of water, and to compensate for the higher brewing ratio, we're going to use a 40 grind size instead of 37, meaning we're making it coarser. So this increases extraction, this decreases extraction. Hello and hello. Lots of good mornings today. Hope everyone's doing well. So yeah, let's do it. Let's start it off and get the ball rolling. We'll measure out the beans. I'll move this down right over here. And we're measuring out 15 grams. There we go. Just enough. It's like 5-6 beans left in the bag. We got the coffee beans that need to be ground, and I've moved it to a 40 grind size. The beans. Yeah, I was gonna ask that too actually, Faye. David, how did your coffee go? Did it turn out better or worse than yesterday? Anyways, continuing with the brew, we got the fabric filter. We got our pour over device, plop that in there, and I'll go and bring the water, BRB. So I just put it on boil, so it'll be a short moment. Fair enough. Sometimes the beans just aren't roasted well, and you can't do anything about it, which is totally fine too. It's a learning experience. Okay, sounds like the water's going. Yeah, a cloth filter is really all about letting those oils through. And I feel like I used to be all into the paper filter for a long time where it would create this clean and extremely light and delicate cup. But with a fabric filter, you just let way more oils in and it allows for a different like mouthfeel to be in your cup. So I love enjoying all of them. So metal, fabric, and paper. You just gotta tweak it according to what kind of bean you have, and try it out and just explore. Okay. This time around, I filled up my kettle way too much, and it's just taking a longer time to boil. hmm Yeah, it's interesting, like maximizing flavor, because how do you really do that? And I always think about just going, like extracting as much as possible and seeing how it tastes like. But you're also flying so close to the sun of over extractedness when you're changing these variables to extract more, that it might also hamper the brew. But if the beans that you're brewing with don't seem to have any flavor at all, yeah, you just need to keep on pushing it and pushing that extraction until you reach like a breaking point of either the beans not having any flavor at all or you get into the over extracted realm. Okay, so we got our boiling water. Gonna preheat. Excellent. So I usually don't consistently use my fabric filter this often. So what I've realized is that sometimes when I leave the fabric filter to sit for some time and I clean it in the morning, the drawdown speed is actually slower than if I cleaned it right away and let it fully dry out. So I don't know what that means, but it's probably that the pores of the filter are being hampered or aren't like getting enough air to breathe or something, so they are kind of like tight. So I'm gonna always just consistently clean it right away after a brew, even though it's a bit more of a hassle to like scrape out the wet grinds and stuff. That's one of the charms of popcorn poppers. You just roast a small batch and you get to play around with the next batch pretty much in a couple of days. Okay, let's go into brew cam. I've preheated everything, poured out the water, and toss in the grinds, like so. Make a small hole. And we're aiming for 92 degrees Celsius. So I'm just gonna add a quick dash of water. I do periodically boil my filters. I actually do it after every specific bag of beans. So if the bean type is different, I'll boil the filter. Or if I'm storing it away, I'll boil the filter. Okay, we're at 92 degrees Celsius over here. Let's begin. Start the timer off. Pour, pour, pour. 50 grams of water, like so. Give it a good stir. a bit, and then we're gonna pour in 2 segments 270 grams of water. So I'll do around 150 for the first one, or like 120-ish. Let's see. So this time around, I'm concentrating way more on doing an extremely slow pour. I kind of just want to see if I can create like an equilibrium so I can do it all in one pour. Yeah, so it's getting a bit too high, so I'm just gonna let it drain out a bit for like 10-15 seconds, and then I'll continue my pour. Right now we're at 200 grams, and I just need to add 70 more grams. Like so. Yeah, like a cloth filter, it's kind of annoying to keep up with the cleaning, to be honest. It's the one real downside of cloth filters. Like paper you just take and you like just toss it away in the green bin, but cloth filters, if you just let it sit there and you don't maintain it right after, it becomes kind of gunky and weird, and you need to like do a lot of stuff to maintain it and clean it even further. So as long as you get into that routine of right after your brew, you just scrape it out, the grinds, and give it a rinse at the sink, then it should be fine. But yeah, it's another thing to worry about, which is annoying. So I'm looking at the time right now. We're approaching 3 minutes, and the water is about to be fully drained. It's like 15 more seconds-ish. But Steve, I would highly recommend you trying out a fabric filter, because the cup quality that you get is just way different from what you would get from a paper filter. It's really just a different beast that you're brewing with when you're dealing with fabric filters. Here we go. Let's see. Nice and level bed. I can kind of see some grinds up top. I could have kind of poured on the edges to bring that down on the second pour, but overall pretty good. Nice and even bed, flat. And give that a stir like so. Speaking of handmade pour over thingies, yeah, my friend actually made these over here, and I've been using this one a lot, and this is another one that is sewn together to fit into your Hario V60, so I'm assuming this is like $1, you know, $1 per filter, which is awesome. This filter over here is a bit more expensive. I bought it and I think it was like $10, and it's like double walled, like two fabric filters sewn together. So it's a bit thicker. would you still recommend it, as in fabric filters, if I like tea like coffee? Yeah, I would totally still recommend it. So it doesn't fully change the quality of like the tea like quality in your cup of coffee because of the high brewing ratio or because of how you're brewing it, but it will let more oils through, and that will create a slightly different mouthfeel. And that's just something that you'll never get in a paper filter because the paper itself will just soak up all the oils that are going through, and you'll never get those in your final cup of coffee. So if you take like a French press that is extremely oily and you can look into the cup and see the kind of like oil segments and stuff, the fabric filter is kind of in between, where it catches a lot of those oils but also lets through some of them, but still is a pretty clean cup because of its pretty dense weave compared to a metal filter. So yeah, it still has the tea qualities that you're looking for if you want that. Yeah, so I do agree that it's easier to maintain if you have multiple filters where you can just clean out one after, like the day after, because the grinds right now are actually pretty hard to get out of this fabric filter. I have to like scrape it out and like do a lot of stuff with it. But if I let it dry in the sun, tomorrow it'll be so easy to just turn it upside down and all the grinds just fall out of the filter. So if I have like two of the same filters and I just rotate them, so I clean one filter the next day and I just keep on leapfrogging them, that would probably be my ideal process of cleaning these fabric filters. Yeah, Steve, totally, go for it. It's like such a easy way to mix up your cup, because a lot of people try to buy new brewing devices or mix it up with new beans or go to a cafe to get a new kind of like vibe of coffee, but just changing the filter does so much also to how the final cup is. And it's one of the cheapest things to do, in my opinion, to get a new cup experience. You can, so David says that you can kinda control the amount of oils based on the thread count of the cloth, and I totally agree. Like the thread count of this one that I'm using right now is pretty thick because it's two filters that are sewn side by side, but the other one that I just showed, here, let me bring it back again. This one over here is way more of like a craft bag where you can kind of see through it way easier than this one over here. So here I have my thumb. Well, this one, it has like mini pinprick holes kinda. So yeah, this one would let through way more oils than that fabric filter over there, and that's kind of the charm of it. It's kind of like how the AeroPress has a lot of different, like you can buy those AeroPress filters that are metal that have a lot of different holes in it, and some of them are super fine and some of them are coarse, and it all lets different oil amounts through. You're never too late. Because we've just started the tasting of this. So let's give this a taste. So I like the tea-like qualities here, but sadly enough there is also over-extractedness that is happening right now. So the change in grind size that I did, changing it from 37 to 40, didn't really compensate enough for the higher brewing ratio. So I would probably next time try to change it even higher, as in the grind size, if I wanted to brew at a 1:18 brewing ratio for these Ethiopian beans over here. I like yesterday's cup even more because the lingering feeling I had in my mouth was way longer. It lasted for a couple of seconds more than this one, and it just felt more silky and smooth. Well, this one is a bit short in its finish, and the taste qualities aren't really like blowing my mind or anything. I think that yesterday's cup still had more taste qualities that I could like pinpoint and latch out and like snag out of the cup. But if I compare this cup to the first cup, I would say that this cup is probably more of what I enjoy and like. And it's probably because of that lightness that I really enjoy this cup. So it's light, non-intrusive, and very easy to drink and pleasant. But yet again, it is a bit over extractedness with that raspiness that I get on my tongue. So, is there a lot of bypass in cloth filters? My intuition tells me that it will have a lot more bypass on the sides. So you're talking about the flow of the liquid going through the filter, right? I would say it's around the same, to be honest. The difference between paper and fabric, I felt are like they're not as different as people say that they are, and only through like trying them out side by side and really testing it out will you probably get a conclusive answer. But whenever I brew with both fabric and paper filters and I kind of like flip-flop them, I've just never found that one of them is so drastically different in flow rate compared to the other one. So this brew over here was pretty consistent at around 310 to 340 seconds, while in paper filter land, I usually brew a lot with paper filters, and that's around the range too. So normally it's a bit lower, so like 3 minutes to like 320-ish. So fabric filters are still within the range of how like the flow rate of the liquid. So David says, I always end up with a richer cup with cloth. Yeah, and I agree with that because it is those oils that just add an extra layer of complexity to the cup of coffee. But really, if you want to hone in on like the tea-like nuances in a cup of coffee, then paper is amazing. Like the cleanness that you get from paper filter is like unparalleled. While in cloth land, you just get a few more characteristics, which is that richness that David is talking about. Yeah, pretty good cup of coffee. And today I'm gonna go and have dinner with my sister. She said that she had something amazing from her garden that needed to be made, which is gonna be fun. And I'm still working on that Hario V60 brewing video, and so far it's looking amazing. So yet again, all of the concepts that I'm applying here with like the change of variables and tasting and tweaking will be implemented in that video series, and hopefully really teach these concepts for people who don't know how to change their cup of coffee according to what you're tasting. And I'm just really excited to share all of that goodness down the road with everyone. It's going to be really awesome. Yeah, Steve, totally. You should. I highly recommend you trying it out. It's really a game changer to just try out filters that are different. So if you have only tried paper filters in your life, go out and get a cheap metal filter and a fabric filter. These are like $10–15 each, and both of them will last you a long time. So metal filter will last you forever, and they'll create a really specific cup. Fabric filters, if you maintain them really well, they'll last for up to a year if you consistently use them. So to end this off, over here, I'm gonna say that the extraction was a bit over extracted. It had these bitter qualities to it that I wasn't too pleased about, but the taste was overall pretty decent. It was better than my first cup, so I'm gonna put the line right over there. But it wasn't as good as yesterday's cup. And tomorrow, I'll be brewing with these beans over here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a Guatemalan bean. And it's a varietal of Caturra bourbon, fully washed. And it's located in Huehuetenango. Hopefully I said that right. Tasting notes of milk chocolate, orange, muscat, and green apple. So it seems like it has a bit of acidity in there with the orange and green apple, but also more chocolatey and like nice sweet notes like milk chocolate. And that's it for today. I love the interaction with the chat today. It's amazing, and I'm always down to just talk coffee with people. Oh, you're from Guatemala? That's awesome. I am very excited to try coffee from your origin tomorrow. Do you drink a lot of your local coffee, Steve? Just curious. Or is it like you want to explore outside of your range all the time? You know what they say, like you never want the stuff that's so easily accessible around you. You'll always want like the stuff that's far away and exotic, you know? Oh, you drink it a lot? That's great. That's awesome. Anyways, join me tomorrow as I bust open that Guatemalan bean. I hope you guys have a stellar day. See more comments there. Have some Guatemalan. Nango. Oh, geisha. Nice. Yeah, I wish you the best of luck roasting with those beans. Exactly. I was gonna say, like, nail down your technique first with some meh beans, and then feel free to use those fancy beans later. Once you have your roasting technique, like, down packed. Anyways, yet again, let's see. Take care.